Elvis was a nickname that a guy on our team gave me right off the bat. I was brash and had a lot of bravado, but wasn't backing it up with any type of commitment to my team. I was more about what we did after Friday night practices than what I did during Friday night practices. And my coach saw it right away, and it just, I never allowed Elvis to be put off to the side and allowed David to come through and my core beliefs to filter to the top and allow myself to reconstitute that self-confidence, to forge it, to have that intestinal fortitude, to push past those fears of my dream. It's crazy. My dream of playing football I was enabled to transfer that dream to a dream of playing lacrosse with a bunch of wonderful, amazing human beings, that I played with. And these are guys that I'm still friends with 20 plus years later, that are still, those confidants in my life that make a huge impact. And I couldn't allow myself to break free of that. And with each progression of each semester and each summer and each party, I just went down that rabbit hole and got to a point where the depression kind of overcame my ability to see things clearly. The alcohol overcame my ability to function with a clear mind. And it really just was a dark, dark time for me that really felt like I was never going to get out of. I was blind. I was absolutely blind. I literally, and had friends approach me all the time to where it was, hey, Elvis, brother, don't you think you need to take a weekend off? Or don't you think you need to, hey, why don't you slow down? And I was like, you don't know anything. And it was, I blew right through that advice, or that my lack of understanding, my lack of perception, my lack of recognition of how people loved me was so convoluted and contorted and clouded by the inebriation, and as well as the fear of trying to pull myself out and finally, admitting the truth, which was I was doing nothing for myself, nothing to forge my self-confidence. And I had basically, because of that fear, I pushed away completely from my team. In April of 1995, I woke up one Sunday morning, and it was the first morning I woke up where I, didn't have a glass of Jack Daniels, and I didn't continue the party from the night before, and I looked over in the corner of my one-room apartment, because I had completely isolated myself from my friends, and I looked over and I saw this mound of clothing, and I'd been wearing the same thing for weeks on end now, and I said, all right, I got to do some laundry. So I grabbed my sketchbook and my pencils, and I picked up that laundry and shoved it in a bag, and a duffel bag, and I went down to some small little laundromat in State College, PA, and I sat in there and literally shoved all my stuff into one little washing machine and put it in and sat back, and I put my corners in, and you hear them roll through, and it was almost as if kind of time started really slowing down for me, and I sat there back right across from that washing machine, and I'm just sitting there and I'm watching my clothes go round and round, and I'm just imagining the filth coming off them, and imagining just that cycle of that repetition of that where almost that soaking wet filth that just keeps going and going, and it really it hit me in that moment, and I was jolted out of where I was, and I had the first epiphany in my life. It was dramatic. It was literally all of a sudden, where I had been at the bottom of this pit, all of a sudden I was pulled out of this thing, and I was thrust forward, and like, hey, mate, it's time to make a change right now. Period. You don't have any more parties. You don't have any more nothing. Guess what? It starts right now. Right at this moment, you are changing your life. Because if you don't, I'm not coming back. I'm not, I'm not gonna. This feeling wasn't gonna happen. So again, that fear came into my heart, but it was a positive fear. It was a fear that drove me forward and lifted me up. And it was that, it was that swim buddy, that hand that reached out and pulled me up. And in that moment, I was like, all right, I was like fired up, Airborne. I mean, this is cool. And it's a great feeling, that feeling. And, and so I allowed it to happen. I didn't regress it or push myself away psychologically or emotionally away from this. I said I embraced it and I submitted to it. And I think that was the key for me, is that I submitted to this feeling. What happened was I literally did what, my father is this wonderful man that's been, a profound influence on my life. And, he's a lawyer for a long time. And, so I thought, all right, and if I'm going to make this change, I needed to take a lawyer's approach. So I wrote out these three options for myself. One was to stay in school and finish my art degree. The second one was to move out to LA, get a tattoo apprenticeship, and join the Hells Angels. But I figured that one I would have been dead in about 6 months on the path I was on. And so on that one. And so the third one was really kind of the one that changed my life forever, where I said, you know what? If I'm going to regain those core things that I've always had in my life that has given me self-confidence and given me the success with the commitment of leading a team life, I said I'm going to join the Navy and try and become a Navy SEAL.